I only said one word, date, and suddenly her father chased me out of the house with a stick. I didn't know English could be dangerous. I thought it was just a tool, something you learn, like math. But I was wrong. Let me take you back to the beginning. I came to London with a backpack full of dreams and a brain full of vocabulary lists. I had studied English for 5 years. I passed all my exams back home. My teachers said I was good, fluent, even. So when I got the scholarship to study in the UK, I wasn't worried. I speak English, I told myself. How hard can it be? On my first day in London, I got lost. I walked out of the airport, feeling excited, proud, and very cold. I forgot how different the weather was here. I needed help, so I stopped a man on the street. "Excuse me," I said, smiling. "Can you help me find the hostel? I think I'm losing myself." He looked confused. "Losing yourself?" he asked. "Yes," I nodded. "I'm lost. I am losing myself." He laughed kindly and pointed me in the right direction, but I could tell something was off. That was the first warning sign. But the real trouble started a few weeks later, with 5 small English words that almost destroyed my life. Word 1, date. Her name was Anna. She had brown eyes, a soft laugh, and she always sat near me in English class. We started talking after class. I helped her with her Spanish homework. She helped me understand British humor. We talked every day. I liked her. Maybe she liked me too. One afternoon, I finally said it. "Would you like to go on a date with me?" She smiled. "Sure. Come to my house this weekend. My dad is cooking." My heart jumped. I dressed nice. I brought flowers. I even rehearsed a little speech in the mirror. When I got to her house, her father opened the door. Big man, big eyebrows, very serious face. I tried to be polite. "Hello, sir. I'm here to take your daughter on a date." Silence. Then he exploded. "A date? You think you can just come into my house and take my daughter on a date?" He grabbed something, a broom, I think, and chased me down the driveway. I ran for my life. Flowers fell. My pride fell with them. Later, Anna texted me. "I told you to say we're just friends. My dad's really traditional." I had no idea the word date could be so dangerous. Word 2, preservatives. A month later, I was in the supermarket. I was trying to find jam. Strawberry jam, to be exact. I walked down the aisles, but everything looked strange. So many brands. So many labels. An older woman was standing nearby. I thought, why not ask her? "Excuse me," I said. "Do you know where I can find preservatives?" She stared at me. "Excuse me." "Preservatives," I repeated. "I want to buy some preservatives. You know, for breakfast." She dropped her basket and walked away, fast. I stood there, confused. What did I say? I Googled it later. Apparently, in some countries, preservatives can mean condoms. I had just asked a stranger if she could help me buy condoms for breakfast. I never went back to that store again. Word 3, excited. This one still makes me cringe. I really liked my English teacher. Her name was Miss Laura. She was smart, patient, and funny. I respected her a lot. One day, she announced that we would go on a class trip to a museum. She looked at me and asked, "How do you feel about that?" I smiled and said, "I'm very excited to be with you." The class got quiet. Some students giggled. Miss Laura blinked. "With me?" I nodded. "Yes, I'm excited to be with you." Someone coughed. Later, a friend pulled me aside and explained. The phrase "excited to be with you" can sound very romantic. Like, too romantic. I didn't mean it that way. I meant I'm happy to go to the museum with the class. But it was too late. From then on, my nickname in class was Romeo. Word 4, bored. By the time this happened, I had started a part-time job at a coffee shop. My boss was a tall man named Greg. Very serious. Always watching. One morning, I was tired. My legs hurt. It was a long shift. Greg came over. "How's it going?" I yawned. "Honestly, I'm bored of this job." He froze. "Bored?" I nodded. "Yes, bored. Very bored." He stared at me like I had insulted his whole family. That day, he cut my hours. Later, I learned that bored doesn't mean tired. It means you don't like it or it's not interesting. Greg thought I didn't care about the job. What I meant was, I'm just tired today. That one little word, bored, cost me almost half my paycheck. Word 5, nuts. My final mistake was supposed to be a joke. I was feeling stressed about exams. One of my classmates, Liam, asked how I was doing. "I'm going nuts," I said, laughing. He looked worried. "Seriously, are you okay? Do you want to talk to someone?" No, I said. "I'm just nuts. Like crazy. Like funny crazy." He didn't laugh. Later that day, the school counselor called me in. "I heard you're feeling unstable," she said kindly. "We're here to help." I was shocked. I had no idea what was happening. That's when I learned something important. "I'm going nuts" can sound like you're having a mental breakdown. All I wanted to say was I'm stressed or I'm overwhelmed. That joke was not funny at all. After the 5th mistake, the nuts moment, I just shut down. Something inside me clicked off. I stopped talking much, not just in class, but everywhere. In the mornings, I used to greet my housemates with a cheerful good morning. Now I just nodded. In class, I used to raise my hand. Now I kept my head down, pretending to write notes. I said only yes, okay, or thank you at work. Safe words. Words that couldn't hurt me. I even stopped joking with my friends. I didn't want to take the risk. One time, a classmate asked, "Hey, are you okay?" I smiled and said, "Yeah, just tired." But I wasn't tired. I was scared. I was afraid of English. It sounds silly, doesn't it? But when every word feels like a landmine, when one small sentence can ruin your day or embarrass you in front of people, it gets heavy. Really heavy. I started carrying a notebook everywhere, not to learn, but to avoid speaking. If I needed something at the store, I wrote it down. If I had a question in class, I waited until after and sent an email. If someone said, "Talk to me," I froze. Because what if I made another mistake? What if I said something wrong again? And this time, it didn't just make people laugh, but really hurt someone. That fear grew inside me like a shadow. And then, I started thinking about going home. Back to my country. Back to where I knew the rules. Where my words didn't betray me. I remember lying in bed one night, staring at the ceiling, wondering, what's the point? Why am I even doing this? I felt small, like I didn't belong, like I didn't deserve to be here. That night, I called my mother. It was around 1 a.m. in my time zone. Back home, it was morning. She answered after just one ring. Her voice was soft, familiar. "Home, are you okay?" she asked immediately. And then I cried. Not just one tear. I cried like a child, the way I hadn't cried in years. I told her everything. The date mistake, the supermarket misunderstanding, the teacher embarrassment, the job problem, the joke gone wrong. All of it. I told her how I felt stupid, how I felt like a failure. I told her I wanted to come home. She listened. She didn't interrupt. She just let me speak. And when I finished, when my voice was shaking and my chest felt empty, she said one simple thing. "Do you remember when you learned to ride a bicycle?" I blinked. "What?" "You were 5, she said. You fell the first time. Then again. And again. You cried. You screamed. You wanted to quit. But now, you ride like you were born doing it. You don't even think about it." There was silence for a second. Then she said, "That's how learning works. You fall first. Then you ride." Something inside me softened. It didn't fix everything in that moment, but it cracked the wall I had built. Because she was right, and I didn't want to give up, not just yet. The next morning, I looked in the mirror. I barely recognized the face staring back at me. My eyes were red and swollen. I hadn't cried like that in years. Not even when I left home to come here. Not even when I said goodbye to my parents at the airport and saw my mom wipe her eyes when she thought I wasn't looking. But this time, the tears weren't just about homesickness. They were about shame, frustration, feeling stupid again and again. I touched the mirror gently, as if I could wipe away the tired version of myself. My lips were dry. My hair was a mess. My voice still felt weak, like it was hiding from the world. But somewhere behind all that, I saw something else. A flicker, something small, but real. Fire. Not a big fire. Not the kind that burns houses or lights up the sky. It was more like the little orange spark you see when you try to light a match on a windy day. Tiny, fragile, but alive. I stared into my own eyes, and I whispered out loud, "No more running." That was a moment I made a decision. I wouldn't fight for perfect grammar. I wouldn't fight to sound smart. I wouldn't even fight to impress teachers or classmates or people at work. I would fight for something more important. Freedom. The freedom to say what I meant. The freedom to be funny when I wanted to joke. To ask questions when I was confused. To tell stories from my heart, even if they were messy. To be myself, fully, completely, in this strange, tricky, beautiful new language. So I started small. That day, I took out my old notebook, the one I had stopped using when I got discouraged, and I opened to a blank page. My hand shook a little as I wrote the date. Then, slowly, I began filling the page with words I had heard that week. Words that confused me. Words that made me pause. Awkward. Flirt. Literal. Bother. Dodgy. Some of them I had heard on the street. Some I had heard in TV shows. Some I didn't even know how to spell yet. I just wrote them phonetically and planned to fix it later. At night, I made it a habit. I sat in my bed, with my phone in one hand and my notebook in the other. I looked up each word. I read example sentences. I watched short YouTube videos of people using them in real-life conversations. It was like detective work. Sometimes, I'd fall into rabbit holes. One word would lead me to another, then another. I'd forget the time. I even started enjoying it. I stopped watching movies without subtitles. At first, I had tried to be cool. Like, I don't need captions. But I did. So I went back to the beginning. I watched my favorite movies again, this time with subtitles on. I paused scenes and repeated lines out loud. Then I tried something new, cartoons. Yes, cartoons. The ones made for kids. Because here's the secret. Cartoons use simple English, clear pronunciation, fun expressions, and they are not boring. I started my mornings with a cup of tea and an episode of Peppa Pig. It felt silly, but it helped. I even changed the language on my phone to English. That first week was chaos. I kept clicking the wrong settings. I once changed my ringtone and couldn't figure out how to change it back for 3 days. But you know what? It worked. Because little by little, English became not just something I studied. It became part of my daily life. At school, I stopped being afraid to raise my hand. If I didn't know how to say something, I tried anyway. If I made a mistake, I laughed. And if someone else laughed at me, I still laughed. Because now, I knew I was learning. I created a private list on my phone called Words That Betrayed Me. Under each one, I added 4 things. Or what I thought it meant. Or what it really meant. What happened when I used it. Or what I should have said instead. Like date. I thought it meant a romantic meeting. It can mean that, but not when you're meeting your classmate's traditional dad. I wrote, instead, say hang out or study together. Do not say take your daughter on a date unless you want to run. It became my personal English survival guide. My little manual of pain, mistakes, and growth. And guess what? It worked. Bit by bit, life got better. And as dad, The same man who once chased me down the street with a broom? He actually invited me to dinner again. I was nervous, of course. My hands were sweating. But when I arrived at the door, I smiled and said, "Hello, sir. I'm here as a friend. Just friends. Nothing romantic, I promise." He looked at me for a second, then burst out laughing. "I like you, kid," he said. "You've got guts." That night, I had the best lasagna I've ever eaten. Miss Laura? She caught my eye in class one day and teased me with a warm smile. Still excited to be with me. The whole class laughed. I blushed, but I smiled back and said, "Excited to be with the class, yes." She gave me a wink. We were good. Greg, my boss at the coffee shop, one day, during a quiet shift, I sat him down. "Greg," I said, "last time I said I was bored, but I meant I was tired. I didn't mean I don't like the job. I like working here. I was just sleepy and didn't know the right word." He looked at me for a long second, then nodded slowly. "You're all right, kid," he said. "Want some extra hours this weekend?" He even gave me a free muffin. And Liam, the one who thought I was having a mental breakdown. Now, whenever we're studying for finals and feel like we're losing our minds, we joke, "I'm going nuts. Better call the counselor." And then we both laugh until our stomachs hurt. But the best part, the part that really made me feel like I had changed, was when I started helping others. There was a new student from Korea. Nervous, quiet. He came to me one day after class, his face red with embarrassment. I told my boss I'm feeling horny, he whispered. I meant hungry. I burst out laughing, but not at him. I laughed with him. "Don't worry," I said, clapping him on the back. "English will betray you, but you can fight back." Now, when I look back at everything I went through, the 5 mistakes, the 5 humiliations, the tease, the shame, the anger, I don't feel embarrassed anymore. I feel proud, because no textbook ever taught me what those moments taught me. They taught me resilience. They taught me confidence. They taught me humor, how to laugh at myself, how to be okay with being wrong, and how to keep going anyway. I learned how to truly listen, how to ask, how to observe, and most importantly, how to speak. Now, I walk into classrooms, coffee shops, job interviews, and I speak. Even if I mess up, even if my accent slips, even if someone smacks. Because I know this is the journey. The 5 English words that got me into trouble, they also gave me 5 of the best stories of my life. Stories I'll tell my future kids someday. Stories I'm telling you right now. So if you're learning English and you feel like giving up, or you're afraid of sounding stupid, let me tell you something, from one English learner to another. You are not alone. We all fall, but you will ride. Don't stop speaking. Don't stop trying. Make mistakes. Laugh at them. Write them down. Learn from them. And keep going. Because every wrong word is just a step toward the right one.